Welcome to Make Today Count, your 20 minutes of fresh conversation served up to inform, educate and inspire an abundant life. I'm your host Ross Dean, and each episode I chat to thought leaders, influencers and experts in their game who all have one thing in common: the desire to go that extra mile, pushing against the status quo to create a richer life for both themselves and those around them, powered by compassion and driven by the need to leave the world that little bit better than when they arrived. Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to Make Today Count. And today we've got Sarah Gartshore. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Okay.
When we kind of touched base a little bit beforehand, it was interesting to sort of, I guess we're in a time now, and we've had a little chat offline before we came on, is the kind of the position that we're in now, with a lot of us being at home for lots of different reasons, but certainly the one that we're living in at the moment. And, this kind of whole thing around living with intention, I think is really prevalent in the times that we speak at this time now. And I'm really looking forward to kind of exploring some of those ways that we can kind of, address these things with yoga and mindfulness. But if people haven't come across what you did before, Sarah, can you give us a little bit of background about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm a yoga teacher. I've been teaching for 6 years now.
Okay.
I was living in Brighton where I did my training originally. I started off doing pregnancy yoga, and then added to that over the years with postnatal, hatha yoga, and then kids yoga just recently. But yeah, my background, I'm actually a chartered accountant, and I originally found, which I still work 2 days a week as an accountant, but it's a good balance. So I come from quite a corporate background, and it was all quite stressful. And so originally got into yoga to kind of find a bit of like relaxation and time out. And then moving to Brighton, then there's obviously like lots of yoga stuff going on there. It's really great for finding loads of different classes, and then got into hot yoga. Became pregnant with my daughter, who's now 7, and had to stop. But then I came across someone called Claire Madalena, who runs what is now Lush Tums Pregnancy Yoga. And she does lots of teacher training. So I went to her classes, and it just sort of changed the whole understanding of what yoga was all about. So I think beforehand I thought it was all just like about the physical kind of exercise. And it just sort of opened my eyes to the other side of it. So like the meditation, the breath, kind of really tuning inwards and noticing what's going on in your body. And I just became really fascinated with all the like the science side of it, of how you can kind of regulate your emotions a little bit with it. And it's just fascinating. So I've just been learning ever since, really.
And that's brought you on to now doing your own teaching here in Suffolk.
So moved back 5 years ago now, when I was pregnant with my son. And just started teaching once he was only a couple of months old maybe. But just been teaching ever since, really, and doing the classes locally in Ipswich.
Perfect. And you mentioned before that obviously you were in accountancy prior to getting into yoga. And it's funny, for a lot of the people that I kind of speak to in these kind of conversations, the things that they're doing now has come out of a situation that's maybe looking, at the time they're looking to enhance their lives in different ways, or maybe change things. At that point in time, yoga and sort of mindfulness and things in that direction were a real help for you, I guess, in kind of managing stress levels and that kind of stuff.
And I still work as an accountant now, and I definitely find that, like, if I find that I'm getting a bit stressed or kind of anxious, then I can build, like, kind of lean on those yoga tools and kind of be really aware of what's going on, so everything feels a lot more in balance. So it's a great kind of really toolbox. Useful.
Great kind of toolbox for everyone to have, isn't it? In that respect,
definitely.
in those times. So, Sarah, so we're going to talk about living with intention today, and I think for anyone that's kind of spent any time online or Instagram or any of those kind of social streams, that it's a phrase and a term that gets kind of thrown around a lot. And I guess to a lot of people it can mean different things depending on your kind of background and what you're doing. But in regards to what you do, Sarah, what does kind of living with intention mean to you?
Okay, so I think it's like the opposite of living on autopilot.
Mm.
And I think I say that from a kind of personal perspective as well. So I feel like a lot of the time in life, say like through school, if you go
Yeah.
to university or something, you have like these set routes that you sort of follow. You
Yeah.
might choose certain subjects at school and you just sort of follow that path, but you don't necessarily get taught the skills to really like delve a bit deeper into what your values are and your interests, and just to like kind of take a step back and work out if that's kind of going to make you happy in the long term.
Yeah,
So I think
definitely.
living with intention is kind of taking that step back and having that awareness of like what kind of builds your energy levels up, what kind of things in your life are the things that make you feel happy and fulfilled, and then using those to direct where you kind of use your limited time and energy. So it's kind of like living with choice, really, and making those choices on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I guess with a lot of these things, we kind of we don't know what we don't know in that respect, doesn't it? You know, if we've always gone living our lives in a certain way, it often usually presents itself in some kind of challenge that we have at some point that kind of opens ourselves up to a new way of thinking, a new way of living, or that kind of stuff. In your experience, does it always kind of manifest itself for people that you work with in kind of something like an event or something that happens which makes them kind of gives them the space to kind of step back and kind of reevaluate things?
Yeah, sometimes. I guess I work with a lot of people who are pregnant or they've just had children, and I think that definitely throws up a lot of kind of challenge in terms of do they need to change direction. It just kind of makes people reassess, I think. But also it could be just that there is a general like underlying level of stress and anxiety, and they might not necessarily have, they might just think, oh, they're stressed, rather than there's actually something that could be causing it. So I think sometimes people turn to yoga because they're feeling stressed or maybe have like depressive episodes, and they've been recommended it by a friend or something. But I think that could be the turning point for some people rather than like a life event. So it could be like a kind of feeling that has crept on gradually.
And you mentioned there as well, you know, a lot of people that you work with are in those stages of pregnancy, which, you know, for many, especially if they're a new mum, there's a lot going on, isn't there? There's kind of like if they haven't gone through it before with other children of their own, it's kind of like expectation and all these things about what they feel that they should be doing. So it's a really good, I guess it's a really good opportunity to kind of sit, well, what's going to work for me, and how am I best to kind of navigate through some of this stuff?
Yeah, definitely. And it's all about your identity as well. So you might kind of identify with your career and not really questioned it. So and then all of a sudden everything changes and you might end up feeling a bit lost, which I think is what happens to quite a lot of people that come to my classes.
And from your experience, yourself, Sarah, and as kind of the people that you've worked with and kind of trained in some of this type of thing, what do you kind of see as the sort of the key benefits of kind of taking a step back and living with a bit more intention in that way?
I think it gives you, so yoga, like the classes themselves, I think it gives you these little tools that you can use. You become more aware of like your breath, and maybe if you are feeling anxious, sometimes you don't notice it. But I think once you've started doing yoga and things like that, you start to be a bit more observant of how you're feeling, and that can be really useful. I think it just gives you space away from like all the busyness in life as well. So people come to class, I think, to really get that time for themselves where they're given permission to press pause and just not have all of those kind of obligations and responsibilities, like even if it's just for an hour.
Yeah, and I think also,
yeah.
from speaking from my experience, not so much on the yoga, but on the meditation side, I think a lot of these things, and you mentioned about stress and those sort of things, is that sometimes we go through life just thinking that what we're experiencing is the norm. You may think that if we have a stressful situation, I feel like this or I feel like that, and you just accept that as the norm because it's happened for it could be years, could be all your life you've always acted in that way. So until you kind of find something that's a little bit different, it's only then, for my experience anyway, that it's kind of like, oh, it doesn't have to be like this. There's ways that I can kind of help myself and manipulate breathing and that kind of stuff to really can really change things. And that's really kind of a euphoric feeling, isn't it? When you go through that and realize that it's there is a different way of living in this, with some of this stuff. Have you found that yourself as you've kind of progressed with your own practices, that it's kind of quite surprising when you first kind of turn that corner, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the sentence that's coming to mind is like, your thoughts don't define you, your emotions don't define you. And actually, once you practice meditation and you become a bit more used to it, you realize that you can ignore those thoughts. So if you are feeling like stressed or anxious, you do have a choice whether you let that kind of enter into your realm. Obviously, if it's like a really major thing, especially like what we're experiencing at the moment, you might be able to do it for a few minutes. It's just going to keep coming back. But I think the tools are there, and it definitely does help. It's just, I think so. It's really helpful, I think, to just actually realize that your brain does certain things, and you can actually watch it doing like what scientists tell you it's doing. I think it's quite amazing.
No, indeed. And I think, in my experience, at least, when I've kind of spoken to people that maybe haven't yet experienced yoga or meditation or mindfulness, it's for a lot of people, it's kind of one of them things that they've kind of seen and they think they may want to do it, but for certain reasons they've told themselves that they can't, for many different things. Why do you think sometimes we see these things as things we think would really benefit our lives, but we just kind of don't put them too high on our to-do list? Is it just not having the time, or what's your experience of that?
I think like yoga and meditation does have a certain image. I think like people tend to think, oh, I'm not the type of person that would do that. And like a lot of people say, oh, I can't come to yoga, I'm not very flexible. And it's almost like they feel like they would embarrass themselves by coming along. And I always try and explain that everyone starts off inflexible in general. It's only through coming to yoga that you actually develop that flexibility. And I think also sometimes people have maybe given meditation a go, maybe like through an app or something, but then just thought, this isn't really working, because they think that maybe they're going to get some kind of like stopping their thoughts and feeling calm after a few minutes, and then just sort of thinking that they were doing it wrong.
I think perception around some of this stuff is really powerful, isn't it? If we think about kind of the archetypal yoga instructor that's we've seen in films and TVs, they're kind of maybe they don't think they maybe fit that sort of hippie-ish type of persona, or if it's meditation, you could create this
or something.
exactly. So it's and I think we're a lot better now, as it's kind of come more into the mainstream, and there are lots of different people doing it in all different ways, that there are so many ways that you can be mindful and to get into some of this stuff, and that's a really good thing, I think. Have you seen kind of a more kind of diverse kind of audience from what you've been doing over the sort of the years?
Definitely. And I guess because coming from Brighton, it's a bit more bohemian
of course.
Yoga is everywhere. And when I moved back to Ipswich like 5 years ago, I was really surprised at how few yoga classes there are. But it's definitely over that period there's so many more yoga teachers, and it's like, I think it's a lot more, I don't know what the word is, it's gone more mainstream around this part of the country as well. And I think people are more up for giving it a go.
And I think, like you say, you touched upon the apps and that kind of thing. They're just more accessible, I think, now. There's there's the opportunity with apps and things like that, especially for meditation, whereby if someone wants to kind of take that first step, I guess, into exploring some of this stuff, they can do so from the comfort of their own home. They don't feel kind of, you know, they don't feel maybe apprehensive about attending a class, or they can kind of do some of this stuff from home. And it's I think it's really good in that kind of there's been a real shift, in the last couple of years, and especially if we think about, you mentioned about Ipswich and kind of the local facility where we live now. There are sort of a few more choices now, aren't there, from say 5 years
definitely.
ago, or some of this stuff, which is really great. If someone was kind of to have a chat with you and they would kind of say, look, I really want to get into some of this stuff, but I'm not yet sold, what would you say that they were kind of missing out on when it comes to getting involved with yoga or mindfulness or this kind of thing? What would be your kind of key things that you'd say that maybe from your experience, that how it's kind of helped you?
I think it really enables you to know yourself a bit better, and so make choices that are going to kind of benefit you in the long run. And I guess I think people are coming around more to the idea of living like true to themselves. Than if you've read the book by Bronnie Ware, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, and like the main regret is that
I've heard about people, it.
It's really interesting. And the main regret is like wishing they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves.
Okay.
And I think it just makes me think, when like life is for living, and you should like make the most of your time by doing things that are in line with what you enjoy. Obviously that's not always possible, but I do think if you're somebody that is like living on autopilot and not really sure what you like, you're missing a big opportunity by not doing things like yoga and meditation, and not getting to know yourself, because I think then that will open up opportunities for happiness. And
a lot of this stuff, as you mentioned, is all about kind of having that awareness, isn't it? That kind of self-awareness of what you're experiencing. What would be some of the key things, if someone was kind of running on autopilot, what are the things, the kind of general things that you kind of see that, I guess, what am I thinking about? Kind of, is it a way that they're feeling, or a way, how can we kind of identify maybe if we're running on autopilot for them, some of this stuff?
A lot of people will be like, oh, I haven't got enough time to do that. I've got to do this, this and this. All this stuff needs doing. Oh, I just never have any time to do the things that I want to do. And I completely understand that feeling.
Of course.
And I think it's like taking a step back from that feeling, and then like saying, actually, I have a set number of hours in a day. What is important to me? Am I doing these things because I feel like I should? Or am I doing them because I want to? And so I think a feeling of like overwhelm and sort of lack of choice, I think, is like the key things that I think people feel.
No, definitely. And I think that this happens at different times for different people as well, doesn't it? We're all on our own journey in that respect. And, for some people it comes, that realization comes earlier than others. But usually it's kind of triggered by something in yourself. And you kind of think, certainly from my experience, it's kind of like, how is this serving me? Is this, is acting like this? I know I'm doing it every day. I know there's other options out there. I haven't done it, to date. So how is this serving me, and what could it be like if we tried some of this stuff? And I think it's that thing, is that if you're able to kind of lean into some of these ideas that you have and just take small steps or small, little bits of action, I think you'll really be surprised, because I think it's all it takes, just a little bit of action to get yourself going. And it's that perception thing. At the end of the day, half these things aren't as bad as they are once you're in it and doing it. And I'm guessing probably people feel that from when they start to come to the classes with you. Probably they maybe a bit apprehensive beforehand about, who's going to be there? They're going to be looking at me, and as I do all this stuff, and everyone's in the same boat, aren't they? They're all having the same sort of thoughts. And then I imagine there's some really lovely communities and bonds that are made from people that sort of come to the classes as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I definitely get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I was really worried about coming, but actually it's fine." Or like, "Oh, I'm not going to go near the front." And then after a few weeks, they're like not worried at all anymore. I think that's natural, isn't it? Anything that's new is a little bit scary. And
yeah, and you know, especially if we're talking about new mums or soon to be new mums as well, it can be quite a lonely and isolating time for them, isn't it? If you don't have family members that have experienced similar things before. So again, putting yourself around like-minded people is so powerful, isn't it?
yeah, definitely.
So you know, we spoke about yoga a little bit, and just move on to mindfulness as well. And I think again, we can kind of have perceptions around what some of this stuff is, and this kind of the keywords of mindfulness, meditation. Are they similar things, or do they, for you at least, or are they kind of, you know, are they very different kind of approaches or skills?
I think they're different, but they do overlap. So I think of meditation as more like a sort of umbrella term for lots of different ways of kind of bringing your attention inwards.
Yeah.
And kind of getting that. I've heard it explained like exercise for your mind. So it's like you're going to the gym for your
Yeah,
mind. So
yeah,
you're
definitely.
setting
Yeah.
aside like some time to like just, yeah, exercise your mind and improve kind of how you're feeling in that way. Whereas mindfulness is more something that you can live mindfully, or you can bring aspects of mindfulness into whatever you're doing. So say I'm just sitting down, you can't see me, but I could be sitting mindfully in that I'm really aware of like where my body is on the ground and noticing any sensations that I'm feeling, but I'm not meditating. But you can also practice, so where they overlap is that you can do mindfulness meditation, where you just like have a mindful awareness of the breath and of any thoughts. So mindfulness is like attention but without judgment. So you might have a mindfulness meditation where you're noticing your thoughts and without judgment, just observing them. So yeah, I don't know, does that explain?
No, it does. And I think it's, again, you know, it's one of those things that I don't think people quite grasp, is that in regards to mindfulness, it could mean different things for different people. So for example, you know, maybe if there was a particular type of music you loved, you know, spending some time on your own, listening to that music, being mindful and involving yourself with that music can be mindful in that sense, in that
definitely.
you're absorbing the music that you love. It could be a particular book or an author that you love. You know, that could be mindful in that way. And I think it hasn't always got to be a kind of a set thing where you sit down, you cross your legs, and you know that's being mindful. I think there's lots of different ways, and for me, in my experience, that was a kind of an easy way of kind of getting into some of this stuff, was to just think about, what do I really love to do? Because sometimes we don't even think about that, do we? We know we always know what we think we should be doing, but what actually do we love? So if you were to have the perfect Sunday, say, what would you be doing? And you know, that's different for a lot of people. It could be walking the dog down a certain track somewhere that you really love. So that could be mindful in itself. So I think for a lot of these things, the perception is that it's got to be something where you sit down and specifically follow kind of an approach or a process for some of this stuff. But equally, it can just be stuff that you really love, and be mindful around that.
Yeah.
When, I guess, with when people kind of start to get involved with some of this stuff, and if they've gone to a class, and that's a great way to kind of start off, but what do you feel that people kind of, I guess, maybe the mistakes that they make around when they're starting some of this stuff? I'm guessing from people kind of expect things to happen a bit too soon. Maybe they have a preconceived thought around what meditation or yoga should be and what it actually is. How do you feel they kind of go wrong a little bit when they're first starting off?
I think maybe comparing themselves to others. So say you come to a class and just thinking they're not very good in the whole, like when I was saying, people say they're not flexible. So I think people have an expectation of what yoga should be, whereas actually it's different for everyone depending on what your body is. So I think maybe like preconceived ideas and not meeting those expectations. So I guess the kind of mistake people make is to have those kind of preconceived ideas, and which is completely understandable. And I think also maybe trying to integrate too much too soon. So I guess there's a lot of things online like, oh, you need to have a morning routine, which I probably will be recommending. But you know, like, oh, I'm going to spend an hour and I'm going to do 20 minutes of meditation, I'm going to do like a whole yoga video, and I'm going to do that every day. So I think people like maybe trying to put too much on their plate and actually creating like a stressful situation out of something that should be relaxing and calming.
I think, like you say, it's easily done, isn't it? You know, only a short amount of time spent on Instagram, you'll get lots of different opinions about what you should be doing. You'll probably be people trying to sell you a certain mat or you know, all these certain things, and it's like, you know, so I guess to get into some of this stuff, would you say it's just I guess some of the easiest thing is maybe just to learn off someone else that's kind of had a great experience, you know, like anything else, and a class is kind of a good way into that, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way in that it gives you a set amount of time where you can take yourself away from everything. So I think there's online videos which are amazing, but I think when you're in your own home, there is a tendency to like just look around you and think of all the jobs that you should be doing rather than sitting there doing yoga. And it's just not, you can't kind of absorb as much, I don't think.
I mean, that's a really great point. You know, the whole purpose of this stuff is that you're in a position where you can relax and, you know, shut everything else off. Now, if you're choosing some of the home led stuff and maybe you've got children at home, maybe you're working from home, there's lots of going on, maybe that's not conducive to what you need to do. And I know from my experience around sort of fitness and that kind of thing, having the accountability always also helps myself as well. So if I know that I'm booked into a class at a specific time at a specific place, for me anyway, I'm more likely to kind of attend and want to attend.
Definitely.
I think again, it's about being insightful and sort of stepping back and thinking, you know, what's going to work best for me in my situation, and I guess also the way in which I learn, because everyone learns differently, don't they?
Yeah, there are. Yeah, definitely. Like learning from other people, or some people enjoy looking at books and learning that way. But yeah.
And I guess also the good thing about learning in person is that you've got someone there to kind of ask questions to, or kind of make adjustments to you and stuff as well, where maybe online not so much as if you're just following a tutorial.
But and you can't see your own body and things like that. So in the class, I think it's reassuring. Like if the teacher's walking around and not adjusting you, then you can be feeling like you're doing it okay. But I think when you're at home, you can be a bit like, this. I don't know if this is meant to be like this or not.
yeah. But say for example, if we do think we do want to, you know, make some small steps maybe at home, and sort of use one of the sort of the online routes, what's a good way of kind of putting ourselves in the right position to kind of plan some of this stuff? I'm guessing the first thing is kind of like arranging the space that you're working in and making sure that it's conducive with what you want to be doing.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much that you need really. So I would say, first of all, I'd say if there's somebody in your house as well, just tell them that you're going to do it. And that sort of like creates that accountability. But also like if you have got children around, or like it sort of just gives you that space, like mentally as well as physically. It kind of gives you permission, doesn't it? So I think that's the first thing, like just say, right, I'm going to start doing yoga at home. I need a bit of quiet time. And then in terms of like the actual space itself, you need probably like enough room for a yoga mat and not much more really. And then you can just use props and things that you've got already, like cushions or even the book if you want to. You could use that as a block, and things like tights or a tie are good to use as straps. So yeah, you can find most things around your house, and maybe somewhere quiet, but it's not completely necessary, really. I think part of yoga is sort of acceptance, and I think maybe accepting that you're not going to find somewhere that's completely quiet and you can go and meditate for 10 minutes without anyone interrupting you, but just accept that that's going to happen and just sort of go with the flow.
Yeah, definitely. From the people that have obviously have come to your classes and experience your training, what are some of the kind of things that they've noticed about their kind of day-to-day lives since they've kind of been working with you and attending the classes? Anything that kind of sticks out as really sort of key achievements?
Yeah, I think so. One person came recently, and she said that she hadn't slept through the night properly for years, and the first class she did of mine, she slept through the night, and then she's bought her own yoga mat, and she's now doing a little bit every night, and she says that she's been like sleeping so much better, which was that was a massive kind of compliment, really. But I was just really grateful that she made that space for herself. It's really good. That's fine. Yeah. And then other people, so maybe like they've just been walking around for ages just feeling like quite stiff, or they've got maybe like shoulder injuries and things like that, and they've just not really done much about it, and then they'll say, oh, since I've been coming to your class, like I just feel so much better physically, and my backache's gone, or my shoulder ache is like getting so much better. And a lot of people do say, like, because I sometimes don't do class if it's like half term or something like that, and they'll be like, oh, I really missed it last week. So yeah, I think that shows me that it definitely does make a big difference.
And that's a really great point that you made as well, because I think there's lots of, when we start to move forward in one direction, there's lots of all these holistic other areas of our lives which just kind of start to click into place as well, isn't there? You know, sometimes if our stress levels come down, like you say, we'll sleep better. It's similar when we're sort of eating a little bit better or eating more nourishing foods or that kind of stuff. It's really interesting, all kind of the knock-on effects that some of this stuff has.
Definitely. And things like digestion. So if you start becoming less anxious through the yoga, then things like if you've had digestive issues, then things like that will start to improve. So everything is interlinked. So it's quite fascinating.
And I think, you know, as well, another thing that for me has been really nice as well is that once we start getting into these things and exploring some of these things, you know, we kind of are a really good kind of role model to kids as they grow up and start to see some of this stuff, because, you know, as kids especially, they won't necessarily take on what you've told them, but they'll take on what they see you doing day to day. And if they see you kind of getting involved with yoga or meditation, and you know, they kind of think, oh, what's daddy doing and what's mummy doing, maybe they need to get. So for me, it's been really nice in that once you start taking on some of this stuff, it's something that you can then share with others.
And it's good skills to learn, like to teach them, I think.
Definitely. And I think, you know, especially around meditation, I still think it's something that, you know, we should be teaching as key skills at school, you know, in that respect, on the curriculum, because it has so much of a knock-on effect later in life, and it just enables you to have those tools if you need to dip in and out of them at any time. Just that they're so useful, aren't they? So I think that's my main goal. I want to get it in schools. That'd be amazing.
That I've just done my children's teacher training for that very reason.
Okay.
I was thinking, coming back to like the living with intention, I think it's like if you can get to know yourself a bit more when you're making these choices for like what exams you're doing, things like that, then I think that would probably nip some of these problems in the bud.
I mean, there's some great little ways. I mean, I use the Calm app to do a lot of the stuff that I do, and we just got some headphone splitters, put it into the phone, so I could have two sets of headphones coming off, and I just lay there on the bed with my daughter and do them, and that's really nice, because it's interesting to see kind of her take on it. Because, you know, you can see the benefits obviously, but then I say, well, how do you feel? And I think, oh, I just feel kind of all floaty and you know, that kind of thing.
Good.
So it's just a nice thing to kind of share together, I think, as well. kind of just those moments of having with your kids as well in a nice environment. And as you know, we've got a lot of downtime now, so there's lots of lovely time to meditate and to do all this stuff. So it's opportune.
Make the opportunity.
Indeed. So when someone kind of works with you, obviously there's a kind of a class that people can kind of come and attend. What can people kind of expect from a class, or maybe a one-to-one, around how to take them kind of from not knowing anything at all to getting them going with some of this stuff? How do you kind of move a client through that process?
So my classes are all quite I wouldn't say they're gentle. They're definitely like physically demanding, but I think the way that I do it is that I'll get people to hold poses in the correct way for like quite a long time, building strength. And so like no matter what level you are, I think you will find it challenging. But that means that if you come as a complete beginner, you have that time to like be told about alignment and kind of find your feet. So it's not like a really fast-paced class where you're like trying to catch up. And that's just like my personal style, really. So I think it is quite an accessible class, like all the different ones that I do. And because I focus a lot on like the relaxation side and the meditation and sort of strength rather than sort of the pace of the class. That makes sense. So it is quite, I think it makes it accessible for all levels.
No, definitely. And do people just tend to kind of come once a week? Is that kind of the general kind of attendance for this?
I have some people for the yoga for all that come twice, and sometimes pregnancy as well. So it just depends really, but generally like once a week. And then I sometimes do like workshops and things, so people might come along to those that are more kind of delving into self-care and like looking at living with intention, that kind of subject. And it's a bit more talking about it. And like I just recently did one where I did like some vision boards, so people get to take away things that they can build into like their lives. I
think that's the thing, isn't it? When you start to delve into some of this stuff, it opens up a rabbit hole of what else can I do and what else can I get involved with. And you know that from spending any time on YouTube, when you're sort of looking at something, you think, oh, I'll go over here and have a look. And I guess that's the lovely thing, is that it's such a knock-on effect to some of this stuff. They want to kind of explore other stuff. And that's really good. And also, especially with the yoga, you know, I'm guessing a lot of people would come maybe once a week, but then they've got the means to practice at home as well in between classes, and spend some time at their, you know, in their home, sort of going over what they've learned in the previous class.
And although this whole current situation is obviously not great, it's actually forced me to be a bit more online. I'll bring my classes properly online in the next week or so, but I've been doing some little videos on Instagram. And so I have been able to see like more people watching those and then messaging me and saying they have been doing it at home. And I think that has actually been really lovely. So I think that's really helpful.
And also the beauty of that is that it's not like the pre-recorded videos to just follow. You're actually there with them, you know, via the video chat or whatever other means you've got.
Exactly.
And you're able to kind of interact and share stuff. And it's a really great way, isn't it? And it's kind of that stepping stone between a class and a recorded video. It's really great. You know, this podcast is called Make Today Count, and the reason for it is that, you know, I want to involve people with conversations and you know, get them learning new things about different subjects, and then for them to sort of have actionable things they can kind of take away from it. And as we're talking about kind of yoga or mindfulness and meditation, if someone kind of thought, you know, this sounds really good and I want to kind of take a small step, what would be kind of your kind of one tip? What would you give listeners that they can take action tomorrow if they wanted to kind of start living a little bit more with intention?
So I think, I know I mentioned morning routines earlier. I think creating some sort of routine, even if it's only like 5 minutes or something, and just when you wake up in the morning, make a conscious decision not to reach for your phone, and then just do a few little exercises. So it might be just taking 5 breaths with your eyes closed or something. So some sort of breath awareness, closing your eyes, tuning in to how you're feeling. And then I would do start incorporating a few yoga moves, even if it's just like rolling up and down into a forward fold and standing, just doing some gentle stretches. Just for a few minutes and just starting to notice how your body feels. And before you just kind of automatically jump out of bed on your phone, dashing into the shower, maybe like going to deal with whatever's going on in the house. And I think doing that first thing in the morning, and maybe also like having a notebook or something, and maybe just writing 3 things like what you want to do today, or how you want to feel, or it might be a gratitude practice, so like 3 things you're grateful for. So like having this little routine of a little bit of breath, a little bit of movement, and a little bit of like journaling, I think that's a really like great start to just noticing your mood before the day starts. And I think when you start off in that way, I think the rest of the day kind of alters a little bit, because you're not feeling on the back foot. And it can take like 5 minutes to just do that. You can gradually start to make it longer, but I do think 5 minutes is enough to make a difference.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's just about starting your day with the best foot forward, isn't it? And I think anything you can do before you, as you say, pick up that phone, and you can maybe leave it at the other side of the bedroom, charge somewhere,
charge
maybe even
downstairs,
leave in a different room or something like that. Because it does happen, doesn't it? The knee-jerk reaction now these days is to reach for it. And many people say, but I need to know what the time is. But just get another alarm clock, get an old school alarm clock. One of the ones you can just get on from Amazon or something, just set it up so you're going to be woken up, and then just start incorporating some of this stuff. And I think exactly what you said there, getting your breathing right, get some movement, and then I think generally you just kind of feel better, don't you, as you then go along your day.
Yeah, it's like you've kind of grabbed control of the day, and you're.
And 5-10 minutes is usually enough time before the kids start coming in and jumping on you and saying to get up anyway.
Or get them involved in the movement and get them to do the breathing if they will.
Get all together, couldn't you? You could all just lay there on the bed and do it together. It is a bit optimistic, Sarah, isn't it? I must admit. You've got lots going on. You mentioned about sort of the online stuff that you're going to be exploring soon with sort of live classes. Anything else you got new coming up in regards to that, or is it just for you at the moment? It's around that kind of online way of teaching.
Yeah, so I'm doing some kids teaching on Facebook at the moment through the Mama Tribe Facebook page. So that's like a sort of network for mums, and they've got a time there for the whole week to kind of keep people kind of busy, I think, during this time. So I'm teaching there on Monday at 11 for kids. And as I said, I've just started doing an Instagram live at 7 o'clock every morning. It does stay there all day, so if you don't want to get up at 7 and do it, but I've just been sharing my normal like yoga practice, which is like 15 minutes or something. So that can be good inspiration if you're not really sure how to start moving about in the morning. And then my website will, in the next few days, be showing the details of the new online classes. So I'll be doing pregnancy, postnatal, and yoga for all, like some live Zoom classes, which will be available to sign up to. And hopefully just some kind of watch as you want to videos will go up as well. But
perfect.
It's all change at the moment.
Lots to set up on the website then.
Yeah, exactly. But it'll all be good.
Perfect. And the best place to get in touch, is it via Instagram or through the website, or?
Yeah, either. So Instagram, I'm at bright.and.well.yoga. There's a Facebook page which is Bright and Well Yoga, and the website is brightandwellyoga.com. And all of those have got, like, you can message me. I'll look at all of them. So
Wonderful. So if you've liked what you listened to today and you want to get involved, and you're in the kind of Suffolk area, you can get in touch with those. All the links as well will be on the show notes page of the website as well, so you can kind of click through to that as well. Sarah, thank you so much. It's been really insightful to kind of go through some of this stuff, and I always would like to end the conversation with some gratitude. And I think, from looking at your Instagram and from the way that you're helping people, from young mums to all areas, it's just so fantastic, the sort of support that you're giving to many people in different communities. So thank you for putting that out there, and I know that from the move to online will just give so many people so much benefit from the comfort of their own home now that we're in this sort of situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I know it's really appreciated.
You're welcome.
No, you're
welcome.
I know, definitely. So that's it, guys. If you've enjoyed the conversation today, please get in touch. You can get in touch directly with Sarah or myself via the links on the homepage there. Also, if you've really liked the conversation, we really like your feedback. So be sure to leave some comments for this show. And also, if you're able to, we really love a review over on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. But until next time, I've been Ross Dean. This has been Make Today Count, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.